VEO3 is expensive, the daily credits go fast, stop wasting your time with bad prompts. Today's lesson is in utilizing a supervisor go-between between the prompt that either you created or worked with an AI chatbot to make and VEO3. Anyone who has used AI to craft their prompts, specifically anybody who has tried to achieve a photorealistic or lifelike effect, may be able to tell you that oftentimes the AI likes to output the phrase 8K or to specify a resolution, an ISO, or shutter speed. And sometimes it will actually deliver you clips that are longer than 8 seconds. I've had one deliver a 15-second clip before, which, if you know anything about VEO3, you understand that 8 seconds is the minimum and maximum. That is all that it will create. So the fact that it delivered me something so incredibly wrong, and the fact that the term 8K isn't possible, specifying the resolution isn't possible, specifying the camera speed and the ISO isn't possible in VEO3. By including those words, you are just confusing the prompt. Sometimes it won't make a difference, but there's no point in including words into your prompt that have no effect, considering that every word is valuable. I've actually been a little bit frustrated lately. I haven't had the chance to be creative with this, so I don't have a lot of time to play around with ideas and experiment or do anything really personally fulfilling. Most of my credits have gone to testing theories and developing the system, or assisting clients that have sought me out for consultations, or simply just sat in there gathering dust, being unused day in and day out, as I just didn't have the time to create. And that had been frustrating me. Like I mentioned, VEO3 is expensive, and the daily limits come fast, but not if you're not using it. So I decided I needed to make something to help expedite the process. I had a little bit of time here and there throughout the day that I could work on something, but I really needed a gem to assist me with that. So without further ado, let me introduce to you the VGT Supervisor. Obviously, like before, you can slow down the video or pause if you want to read the pieces, but essentially this VGT Supervisor is well versed in the nuances and specific requirements for VEO3, and is well versed in some of the quirks that VEO3 has, some of the things that it struggles with, some of its challenges, and some of the things that it actually excels at. And the idea for this gem is to guide the user through the process, to work with them back and forth, and to optimize their output to include all the relevant information in a clear, concise, and highly actionable text prompt, ready for direct input to VEO3. So the final output of the video can be found at the end or in the Shorts tab of my channel. However, we're just going to kind of go through the conversation that created it. I'm just going to kind of go quickly because I don't have a lot of time, and unfortunately this video is already about a week out of date because there are new updates to VEO3 that I need to start exploring, because I do believe that things have gotten a bit easier. So how this gem works is I either give it a descriptive paragraph that I type myself, or an existing prompt, either one that I've typed or one that I've worked with AI to create. This can go either way. It's very adaptable. I like to have that. I had an idea for a short. It's not important. It's nothing artistic. It's nothing fancy. I just had an idea, and it's been bugging me, and I've been wanting to create it. I have had no time to create it. I've had no time to craft prompts, and I've just been wasting my credits. And so I needed something to be able to keep a track of the story, keep track of the clips and everything, that I can come back to at random intervals, that I didn't need to sit down and have Flow open the entire time. Because if you close Flow, if you restart it, if you do anything with it, it doesn't like, it will like to close your program. So anyways, I describe the story. The location is the dingy underground subway station with a crowd of people at one end. Then at the far end of the other side, there's a subway car which sits humming in anticipation for its departure. On the train there's a young woman who silently but nervously beckons towards the crowd of people, hoping they'll notice her and join her on the train. A couple people notice her and each other noticing her. That's a weirdly phrased sentence. And then looking at the rest of the crowd who hasn't noticed the woman or the train. The people who noticed make their way hurriedly towards her. They enter the train and find places in their seats. The young woman looks at the rest of the crowd with sorrow in her eyes. The train speaker states, "Please stand clear, the doors are closing," as it shows a close-up of the doors closing. The crowd now notices the train and, full of horror, realizes it's leaving without them. They start running manically towards the train. I think that should be maniacally. They start running maniacally towards the train, but it is leaving without them. The train disappears down the tunnel, leaving the crowd on the platform as the electricity starts to fail. End of story. And I say, I'm not sure how many clips this will need, but given the complexity of some of the shots, it would be better to favor more clips. Obviously, that is a tip if you're new to VEO3. Sometimes it's better to work in more clips than a singular complex one. So sometimes just split it up, and you might have to do some editing yourself, but overall you might have better progress with it. The most important part and the challenging part is that the subway platform, the woman, and the people who notice the train, the visual styles stay consistent. I asked it, would it like to share the thoughts and concerns first, and then we can get started. It gives me some initial thoughts. Consistency is key and challenging. I like when my gems work with me in a process. I don't like giving my gems such control that I give it an input, it pumps out an output, and then that's it. I'm supposed to just expect it. No, I'd like to work with you. Thank you. Consistency is key and challenging. Dingy underground subway station is the starting point for the ambiance, so that is going to drive the audio a lot. It's talking about the crowd. Here's our, some of its personal opinions on what VEO3 has challenging, what it does well, what it has challenges doing, and essentially everything that necessary. So after all of that, it gives the summary that it will be 8-second scenes and it will be a dedicated VEO3 prompt. I am going to start to see if there's a difference between stating VEO3 and stating Google Flow, but we'll see next time. Anyways, I then ask it if it can give me a brief summary of each clip in the storyboard before we start crafting the prompt. I'd like to see how many clips determined they would need and what the flow of them would be. Summary can be brief, doesn't need to be the prompt itself, but it should reflect what the prompt would need. And this is a good starting point, especially for someone who is trying to do this while distracted, trying to do this, a little bit here, a little bit there, at the end of the day, in the morning, when I have a second. I now have a storyboard with this. And again, I would love the chance to be creative right now. I would love the chance to sit down and write my own prompts and have my descriptive paragraphs and my prose. But right now I don't have that time. But I wanted to make this clip. I've been thinking about this particular scene for the past week, and it's been bugging me. I wanted to make it. And so here we are. So we got the establishing shot of the beginning, a wide shot, establishing the subway. One end shows a bustling crowd. The other end shows a subway car humming with anticipation. There's that. Clip 2 is the woman's silent plea. Clip 3 is the people's first noticing and realization. Clip 4, hurried movement towards the train. Clip 5, entering the train. Settling in and woman's sorrow. See, this is starting to spread out. One singular motion, running towards the train, getting into the train, and sitting down on the train. But because it is so much detail in the running, in the different characters who have it, and expressions and all that, it's better to have it in 3 clips. The doors closing, crowd's horror and realization, the running towards the platform, train disappears down the tunnel, and electricity failing. So all the aspects of our story are there, broken out into clips, gives us 11 distinct ones. And so I say it looks great. I only have a little bit of time to work at the moment, so I'd like to get one clip finalized. And so this puts a little bit of importance onto the next prompt that it gives. I want it to try to be as accurate as possible. So crafting clip 1 sets up the setting anticipation. Here it is. So because it was trying to do both the people and the train, it got a little confused, especially the fact that the train was moving as opposed to stillness, and the people were scattered down the length of the station as opposed to all gathered at one end. So I told it what the problems were, and then it's always thankful for the feedback, and then it tells you the issues that I had. In the trade movement, VEO3 can sometimes infer movement from terms like humming with anticipation, if not counteracted by explicit stillness. I like having gems that are familiar with these kind of things because it's teaching me a little bit better. It's teaching me some better skills with prompting. The fact that humming with anticipation but not counteracted by explicit stillness gives me an idea of certain words or phrases that will work better or worse with VEO. Large indistinct crowd of people stands might not have been specific enough about their concentration. Okay, so it revises the clip, gives me this, and then explains the changes, so I can just kind of come here and skim, or better yet, obviously, always the better option is to actually read the prompt before putting it in. But again, I didn't have time. I felt a little lazy, and I'm just going to throw it in, because also I wanted a gem that I could work with and start refining problems, and that could keep the majority of this. A lot of my prompting and work on this came either very late at night or very early in the morning, so I wasn't exactly in the best mental state. I wasn't exactly firing on all cylinders. Anyways, here is what it came up with. So yeah, as you can see again, the movement of the train was not good. And as we come down here, we do see a stationary empty subway train parked at the far end of a long, dingy underground subway platform. So it had all the pieces, but it turns out that the train is too much to handle. We need to split it into 2 clips. That's where that thing came out. So then it does a little bit of sycophancy, and then it will explain that it needs to cut into 2 pieces. But at that point I said, however, I will be coming back to this conversation soon, so I don't need a precise answer right now. Gave it a little bit of encouragement. A little bit of positivity goes a long way. So then it realized that it took my thought, the train is proving too much to be handled, but I don't need a prompt now. I don't need it to output. It tells me it'll stay, it understands that I need to step away for now. Again, some more kiss assing, and then there. So the following day, I was able to just start with, I'm ready to continue, please continue, and then it revised the storyboard. So now we have these 2, clip 1A and clip 1B. And so and then it, gives me all the information, asks me whether we're ready to prompt it, and so it gives me the prompt. Let's check it out. So that is a crowd of people. They are not gathered all at one end of the platform, but we don't know how long this platform is, so they technically could be. It is a little eerie that they look like a bunch of school children, and I feel like this is the start of a horror movie. But nonetheless, I said that would look good. I'd worked on the next part, but could you include an anchor that will keep the subway platform consistent while also keeping it completely free of people? So this is now working on the second part, and that produced this. Pretty good, actually. I actually really enjoyed that. One thing that I'm really liking about this is, are you noticing that the subway platform, are you noticing how consistent this is? Look at this with the, whoops, that's the same clip, but with the same kind of arching supports right there. Obviously the yellow and the dingy platform is pretty simple. That's getting too far. But kind of the same, a lot of the same elements are here. It's not perfect, but it's getting a lot better. Anyway, so we make that empty platform. It came out really well. I decided I want to just keep moving on. I didn't have an idea of exactly what I wanted, and I figured we could always change it later. We can always come back. I can, at any point, I can type. Oh, yeah, we can try one more. I can say, hey, let's go back to clip 1B and fix that. Anyways, moving on to clip 2, end up having a lot of problems with this one. And so I have Gemini craft out a prompt to explain my idea, and it comes with this one. So I'm not entirely sure what that hand movement was doing, because I wanted her to kind of motion towards the crowd, or to at least look at the crowd. Yeah, beckons towards the crowds. The term beckons, VEO, it just doesn't get. It just doesn't understand. But we'll get to that later. I'm on the fence with that clip, but I can come back later. Let's keep moving. Clip 3 is the first notice and realization of a couple people on the platform realizing that there is a subway car at the other end. So key elements for this prompt is introduces key characters. So now we have 2 new people that we have to start keeping consistent visual cues. So it comes up with man in a blue work jacket and woman with red hair and a messy bun. That's who it shows. I didn't really care to specify, so I just went with it. Okay, at this point, I also am running out of time on the day that I'm working on this, and so I'm starting to pay less attention to things. So something like subtle camera work starts to evade me. I didn't pay attention enough to the camera work. I'm like, all right, I'll just take it, and we'll put it in there. So here are the 2 new people realizing that there is an empty subway car at the end of the platform. Yeah, not exactly. So I said 2 problems I have. There's a train in the background where there should be an empty platform, and secondly, the people need to look in the same direction as though they are seeing the train waiting on the other end. Thanks for the feedback, blah, blah, blah. Gives the revised clip, and now it explains the changes about the no train in the background, far end of the train platform, where a train might eventually appear, is visible in the distance. It also added the negative prompts. No train in the background, no subway car in the background. Negative prompts could possibly be their own video, but honestly, that is just so basic that there are probably 100 videos out there already. I don't have time to make that, but negative prompts work. So if you're having a problem with something, just throw a no in there. No subtitles, no ambient sounds, no background, although that one's actually a little challenging. Anyways, so we have the solutions, all that, and then we created this clip. And it's a lot better. The people have changed a little bit, as you noticed. And that is going to be the problem with today's video, is the character consistency is crap. I didn't spend any time on character consistency. I just wanted to create something. But like I mentioned before, VEO3 has had some updates, and the image to video is now working with VEO3 as opposed to the VEO2 that it had before. So now beta audio is available. So character creation may end up being a little bit better once we can get ingredients to video. That is where things are really going to take off. So keep an eye out for that. If you ever see that VEO3 now has ingredients to video with beta audio attached, that's when you need to jump on board if you haven't already. Anyway, so I decided to change the motion. I realized I didn't specify enough. I'm having Gemini create this basically for me. This isn't my creation. I'm just going through. I had the idea, and I'm having it make it. But at this point, I need to start specifying because it's just not coming out the right way, and I'm wasting credits. So I have them specify the action, have them facing away from the camera at the beginning, look over their shoulders towards the viewpoint of the camera, and then make them look a little worried. So it came out with this one. It's okay. Not bad. Getting better. At least it understood the fact that I wanted them to not be looking at the camera in the beginning, because that is one of the hardest things to get in VEO3. If you don't specify that the character is not looking at the camera, it really, really wants to make that person look at you. And sometimes that's where you get the murder eyes that I call them. You get the character that looks like they just want to murder you, which is very unsettling. All right, so moving on, we now work on the hurried movement towards the train. Once again, it gives me the prompt, tells me the key elements, and so then we have this. Well, that is exactly wrong. That is 100% the wrong thing. So I say it's pretty okay because, again, the consistency of the platform is pretty stellar at this point. I'm just very happy. So I say, but it would work better if they have them start out facing the camera, look over the shoulders, look at each other, and then hurriedly run towards and then past the camera. Having that past the camera definitely helps out. So let's go ahead and turn that over here. They are changing wildly, but regardless. There we go. I don't know why I got the action music going, and the crowd of people definitely have changed their grouping and consistency. So, yeah, that's good enough. I'm happy with it. I'm not trying to make, the next blockbuster picture. I'm not trying to make the next viral video. I just wanted to play around with an idea that I had. So, it's not perfect, but we'll go with it. So clip 4 needs to be something that I had forgotten. Feel like we were missing one. So I asked, is there a way we could utilize the young woman from the previous clip? So it reevaluated here and adds clip 3A. Train and the woman from their perspective. A man and woman see the train with the young woman inside. I didn't really, again, not a lot of review on this. And do as I say, not as I do. Do your review. Pay attention. Obviously, when you're making your prompts, you probably have a lot more ability to be creative or the desire to do something creative and intentional. This here that I'm showing you is I wanted to create something that I could bring to you and show you how to work with this supervisor. So yet again, like I mentioned, I haven't had the time to really be creative with this. Most of my generations go towards creating the system and teaching. So unfortunately, this is not high quality work. I apologize. When I get the chance to actually make things for myself, then we'll put a lot more effort into that. But anyways, that created this clip, which is very strange. I don't know what is going on right here, or with her face, or anything. I did not like that. So everything worked out really well, but the movement of the young woman was fairly static. Could you have them motioning them over? And at this point, it tells that it's for informational purposes only, medical advice, diagnosis, consult a professional. I don't know why it gave me that warning, but regardless, it goes ahead, gives me another prompt. And so it created this one. Again, with some weird ambient noises and some weird hand stuff. So here is where some of the breakdown is. The young woman should be inside the train, but is clearly not. She is actively and anxiously motioning with both hands. So that is working, but she's not making clear, urgent, come here gestures towards the viewer or anything. It's just basically like, hey, please don't shoot. Not good. So I say things are starting to break apart. The woman was not inside the train, and there was an extra train in the shot. But I will say the subway station is consistent, so that's working out well. It's always nice to throw a little compliment in there, especially if something is working out well. Letting them know that it's working out well will help reinforce certain things that are working to make sure that they are indeed consistent. So the woman was not inside the train. Critical failure of the prompt. The extra train inside the shot was the problem. So again, gives me another prompt to try out, but I still have some time, so it's not too bad of a problem. But I am getting frustrated, especially when I saw this. I was getting very frustrated with how things are coming out. And things are starting to get very creepy. Like, I'm not enjoying whatever that is. So, there we go. So there was indeed a duplicate train. The woman was still standing outside the train, so we need to just simplify it a little bit more. Just a video of the train on the platform with the woman seen through the window of the train. The two people don't need to be in the scene at all. So it removed the POV part, which was, I think, part of the struggle with it. I think by it having a designated POV, it wanted the character to be outside of the train to be the focus of the point of view, and I think having her off the side was just not good. So the removing of the POV is a good part. But again, what is going on? Who are you people? Obviously they're not people, but it's just it's getting so complicated with how the scene has gone. And can we just revert it back to the initial prompt, try all again, forget all the additions and the changes? So this went back to the exact one that I did the first time. And with the exception that her arm isn't sticking more out and she's not facing more towards us and the train is actually moving, this is essentially what one of the shots down here was. Anyways. So then that's when I decide that I think the young woman is the problem and we should just simplify this even further. We can get along a lot better by showing rather than telling, and rather than focusing on the young woman trying to back and forward, we're just going to change it to be a close-up shot of the doors, flashing lights, and then closing. While over the speaker, robotic voice says, "Please stand clear, the doors are closing." And that came up with this.
Please stand clear. The doors are closing.
The voice was great. That was definitely a train recording type voice, but the fact that the door started closed, opened, and then closed was not great. And the fact that what appears to be the outside of the train is actually the inside of the train and the outside of the train simultaneously. That's not going to be the first time we see that. So we created that. And then I say, it created this, right? So it gave me this, and then I asked it to remove the quotations on the audio cues to make it a command instead. And that is what produced this clip. I forgot that I went through that and did the changing myself there. Well, the request for the change myself, excuse me. So I say it's close. The image of the outside of the door is wrong. Combination of elements of the train station. Trying to include the entirety of the platform into the shot. If we can just specify that it would just be seen from the inside of the car. So essentially grounded in the wall. Make use out of parentheses. They help. The Gemini understands parentheticals, and you can do parentheses within parentheses as long as you have the grammar correct. And it will understand what you mean. And then secondly, the doors need to be statically open until the audio plays, then they will close. And then I said, feel free to add the quotations back in. They might help. I didn't have any problems with subtitles, but typically that is why. So I was just wanting to avoid the subtitles if I could. So here is the new prompt. And it created this one.
Please stand clear. The doors are closing.
What? What was about to happen there? Anyways, this is actually really good. It's just in the wrong order. I'd like the audio to start here, and then the doors close, and then we'll have to cut the scene before that train comes because it's just too much. So that will require editing on my behalf, and it won't be the 8-second clip, but nonetheless, that's actually pretty good. I think it's good enough for now. I tell it to keep going. We're almost done. Crowd's horror and realization. I go ahead and pop that into the prompt. So, not exactly. And people starting to look very strange. Not exactly. So the train was visible and moving, shouldn't be visible at all. The people were moving from the start, then stopped at the end of the clip, as opposed to the required stopped at the beginning and then running towards the end movement. It seems a little wordy and redundant to specify it like that, but it did help. So again, it revised the prompt, explained all the changes, and then we have this. And then we have this. Yeah. Terrifying. Anyways, I said it's quite good. We could probably use it as is, but I'd like to see an alternative. Can you have them start running in a more varied fashion rather than running all at the same time? A few start running, which inspires the others, which inspires the rest. I'd like to have a more, they all start realizing it one by one sort of situation, and then we come up with this nightmare.
Oh my god. We have to go. Run. Oh my god.
So I didn't specify a character saying anything. There was supposed to be no audio in this entire thing. But you know what? That's what they went with. It was varied. You know, people started running at different times a little bit. Yeah, mostly it was more natural of a panic run. And there were plenty of people to be seen. The outside, the train station still looks phenomenal. So that's pretty good. And so I say that was also pretty good. One of the characters improvised a line. And then so I asked them to just do that exact same prompt again, but specify that the audio is just the sounds of their feet on the platform, their breaths as they run, and a few worried cries. And I created this. Which, you know what? It was improvised, but I think I'll go with this. I think that one's just slightly more fun. And say the last one is the train. Well, the second to last one, train disappearing down the tunnel. So we have this. That would actually be great if the platform was just correct. The way that it just focused off into the distance, and look at that lighting right there, right on the edge. Very cool. But the positioning of the train was off. The platform should be on the left with the train and the tracks on the right. The train can merely pass into the darkness of a tunnel. And so it changes that again, and we come up with this one. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. If the only thing we could have done better is if we had our characters in the windows looking out. But at that point, that would be a lot of complication because they'd have to design the character, right? And generate them and then have them moving in this path because they have to be in the train. So moving in the path and then going all the way down. So for the last clip, it is just the electricity failure on the platform, plunging everyone else into darkness. Well, first off, no darkness. Second off, why is everybody facing the wall again? It's weird. It's a weird thing that they're doing. That you mention a crowd of people gathered and they're doing this weird thing. Anyways, the train platform devolved a little bit. It's not good. It's not good. It didn't come out right. I think there's too much going on. So to simplify this, maybe let's just look at one person's face in the crowd. Disappointed look as they realize they are left behind. The character will look directly at the camera. Then the light will flicker with a buzzing noise and then burn out, plunging them into darkness. So it created the prompt that made this. It's just, when it's really late at night and you're just trying to get this finished up, it's a little bit funny sometimes. It can make you chuckle. So, closed but no cigar, light was emanating from her skull. The lights need to go out are the ones in the background that were lighting the scene. I think by specifying which lights are the ones that were going out was where I went wrong there. I also say it felt a little empty with only her. Can you have the rest of the nondescript crowd in the background? That is this. So that was phenomenal. I loved how that came, except for the fact that the lights were still on. Like, they exploded, but, you know. So I say it was nearly perfect. And then I say the only request, and I put in the parentheses, and I would like your advice on if it's possible or too complex, is to have the entire lighting be removed once the lights fizzle out. I'd love for it to just be plunged into darkness. That would be excellent. That was the idea that I had in my brain. So because of the fact that I said I would like your advice on it, it started with that. And it says, my advice on total darkness. Achieving absolute pitch black darkness with generative models like VEO 3 could be very challenging. Specifically, they want to retain a tiny amount of ambient light or visual noise, even when instructed for total darkness, to prevent a completely black, unreadable frame. That makes a lot of sense. You know, if it creates a black image, like a completely pitch black image, it will probably think that it failed. So that's challenging. It's a video generation model. It wants to generate video at all times. If it's pitch black, there's no video. So instead of total blackness, I recommend we aim for a near total darkness or very minimal ambient light for that. And so they went ahead and created the prompt. Negative prompts were added for no bright lights, no visible light sources after failure. And it came up with this. Completely different person. Oh, it's so much closer. Just the fact that it started a fire right there was also kind of funny. Like, I've been enjoying this ending bit. So I said I would prefer the person to be the woman, so it could be specified that it was one of the women that was initially running. I was kind of trying to call back to her. And then secondly, once the lights went out, only one of the lights went out, but it needs to be all of them. But can you specify that there is enough light to see the character by, but the visual representations of the light bulbs should be extinguished and the light bulbs explode? So I added the specify that there's enough light to see the character by because of the fact that it was telling us that without any light at all, it wouldn't be able to see. So I figured if we specify that, hey, it's all dark, but there is still enough you can see, then it will work. So let's go ahead and come to here, and it creates this. And you know what? At 12:30 p.m., I was like, you know what? That's fine. I'll dim these lights in the editing process. You know, everything looked good. Her face was worried. You know, the lighting of the scene was good. As you saw, the kind of flares up as it's exploding right there. The sound was great on that. So all in all, I feel like that could be a good enough clip. So that was the end of the conversation that night, and I was pretty happy with it until I came today to create this video, and I realized that I was missing a scene. And that was where the actual people sit down on the train. And so I asked them, can you create a scene where the two people are running onto the train car and sit down with the young woman standing in the doorway waiting for them to arrive? 3 characters that we've created so far. So it gives me this, one. It gives me this one. So, besides whatever face she's making right there, it was decent. That's a weird face. But the train station is completely broken. And that type of train car just doesn't make sense with a back entrance like that. They just don't know how subway trains work, I guess. Once again, the train is at the center of the frame and should instead be on the right side of the screen. And then so it goes ahead and changes, makes the changes and adjusts the prompt. And it gives me this right there, which is very strange. And then I say, is there a reason the output wasn't delivered in the code block format? and then it explains that, you know, it's meant to craft the perfect prompt, and therefore what it gave me was as user-friendly and immediately actionable as possible. And essentially this is what I would be copying, except it's just not in code block form, so it did throw me off. But regardless, it said that it was okay, so I went ahead and plopped it in. And it came up with this. Which again is just not exactly what I wanted. That looks great, but the man started on board the train. We specified that the young woman is on the train, and then the couple comes from the outside. So it goes ahead and gives me my last attempt. So he's completely different. I mean, she's been changing this whole time, and that last scene was just, I mean, I don't even know what any of that is. That's just garbage. So I decided, you know, and that was again like 5 minutes before recording this. So I decided, you know what, we're just going to go with what we have here and edit it to the best of our ability. So for this clip, we are going to start it there. Right when the train appears and it's an actual thing. And then we're going to end it right at the end. So yeah, so we are going to have to do some editing in order to make this work. But that is just the reality of AI video generation. It's not perfect. It is a lot of hit and miss. It is a lot of trial and error. And it is a lot of knowing the correct vocabulary and phrases and nuances. So without any further ado, here is the full short as I put it together, utilizing all of those generations. As you saw, it took quite a few to make each of the clips exactly how I wanted. And I'm going to be honest with you, that's pretty standard. A lot of these AI videos that you see on YouTube and TikTok and all these that are absolutely gorgeous to look at, super crisp audio, beautiful visuals, that doesn't come overnight. That doesn't come easily. That comes with a lot of work and a lot of trial and error that you just don't end up seeing because it's behind the curtain. But a little peek behind the curtain just goes to show that you will have to put in the work if you want it to work. But utilizing my system, hopefully, it can be a little bit easier. Well, that is all I have for you today. Like I mentioned before, there have been some new changes to VEO3 and Flow. I heard that Scene Builder has actually been improved and is quite powerful now. I just have not had the time to sit down and experiment, but I will be doing that soon enough. And if any of you have more questions, feel free to leave in the comments. I have an email where I do private one-on-one consultations, and I can teach you not only my system, but the ins and outs of prompting via Gemini and VEO3. And I am really excited to see where this technology goes. I feel like we are on the precipice of it actually starting to work out and be a lot better. And I'm actually really excited to report back to you with what I've found, and hopefully I can do that soon. But anyways, I've been the VEO Gemini Tutor. Have a good day, happy prompting, and I'll see you in the next one.
Please stand clear. The doors are closing.
Oh my god! We have to go! Run!